Hey there, instructional designers. Welcome to this mini video lecture on using primary sources. The slides that this video is based on are also available in our Google Drive, and I'm going to refer to some links that you can click on. I know you can't click on them in the video, but they are linked in the slides, and you can access all the resources there. So the Library of Congress provides a definition for primary sources for us. They define them as the raw materials of history, original documents and objects which were created at the time under study. And they clarify that they're different from secondary sources, which are accounts or interpretations of events created by someone without firsthand experience. They also let us know that examining primary sources gives students a powerful sense of history and the complexity of the past. Helping students analyze primary sources can also guide them toward higher order thinking and better critical thinking and analysis skills. We want our students to grapple with ideas in history. Oftentimes, if students are just exposed to textbooks, for example, they might think that there is a capital T truth to history. Julie will tell you that, and she's the expert on this, about the different philosophical perspectives on history. But the primary source document analysis really honors this grappling that these sources come from a particular perspective, and that we need to understand what that perspective is, the context in which it was made, in order to create a more nuanced understanding of the time period that we're studying. So the Library of Congress lays out basically a four-step process for engaging students in primary source document analysis. The first thing happens before the lesson, where you as the teacher choose the primary sources and the analysis tool or the guiding questions that you want students to use as their lens for engaging with those documents or pictures or videos or pieces of art, whatever they happen to be. And then during the lesson, you're going to engage students with primary sources. You're going to promote student inquiry and assess how students apply critical thinking and analysis skills to the primary sources. So we'll walk through an example of what these steps might look like as you apply them in the classroom. So this is I borrowed these resources straight from the Stanford History Education Group. They provide awesome resources, lesson plans that already have all the resources that you need to go with them. It's a fantastic place for you to go when you're teaching history and other subjects that have historical connections. So they provide this guiding question. Why would two maps of the same place differ? And they give us some sources, two maps of Virginia that allow us to explore this question. So they provide these two early colonial maps of Virginia. The first is the Gerhard Mercator from 1636. And then the next one is the Edward Williams map from 1651. So already you're probably noticing some distinct differences between these two documents. So another great resource that provides us with some analysis tools is the National Archives. And this resource, or this Analyze a Map sheet, comes from the National Archives, and it's linked and it'll take you there. So this has a few different sections: the Meet the Map, Observe its Parts, Try to make sense out of it, and use it as historical evidence. So students could use some sort of guiding document like this to help them think through their analysis of these two maps. After students have a chance to meet the map, observe its parts, try to make sense of it, and think about it as historical evidence, we could then return to our guiding question, which is, why do maps change over time? So the Stanford History Education Group gives us some questions to help prompt this thinking. To ask students, what differences do you notice between map A and map B? Maybe this would be something that you would ask in an exit ticket or some sort of more formative assessment to be that third step of this process that we're going through. You might also remind students that these two maps are showing the exact same piece of land and ask students why they think they differ. To answer this question, students are going to be relying just on their analysis of the two maps and maybe any background knowledge they have about this particular time in history. And then the Stanford History Education Group gives us an additional resource in the form of a historical context sheet. And it gives some more of a timeline of the events that surrounded these two maps. And you might ask students about how settlers' attitudes towards Native Americans had changed based on that timeline between these two maps, and how might settlers' attitudes toward the land have changed between the time period when these two maps were created. So to look at that sheet, we can see that the settlers first arrived in Jamestown. Their population, after a pretty horrific winter, that the population begins to grow, and then there's significant conflict between the Native Americans and the English settlers. And it's after that that a wall is built and Map A is created after that. Between the date of Map A and Map B, the first Indian reservations are established. So knowing that historical context, how does that now inform additional further analysis of the map? What conclusions might students draw based on this additional contextual information? Now, primary source document analysis can take place with students at any age. And we know that those primary sources, as we just saw, do not have to be written text, which could prohibit some students from being able to engage with them, either because of the style of the language or the style of the writing or the handwriting. We can use all sorts of different types of primary sources with all different age groups of students. So this is an Analyze a Map sheet, again, from the National Archives for primary students. Notice it has pictorial support and more simplified questions to help guide students through their analysis of the document. Now, while these National Archives guiding documents are pretty scripted and prescriptive, the Library of Congress has much more open-ended structures for engaging in this primary source document analysis. So they have different analysis tools for different types of documents with these guiding questions that are all framed around making observations, drawing inferences, and then asking further questions. And then they have specific guiding questions depending on what type of resource you're engaging with. So if you're thinking about using primary sources with your students, go-to resources are the Library of Congress and the Stanford History Education Group. Both have great ready-to-go lesson plans that already have all of the planning materials as well as the associated primary source documents and analysis tools that go right along with them. So I hope that this has been informative. I'd love to hear what questions you have or reactions you have or ways in which you've experienced primary source document analysis, either as a student or as a teacher, and let me know how this is going for you. So talk to you soon.